Hi everyone. My name is Matt, and I will be talking to you about feeling lost and trying to understand myself. When I was born, I was diagnosed with autism, including learning disability, and I had to do teaching time with a speech therapist where she worked with me on sentence fragments, learning how to speak words, working on improving my behavior, um, and learning about doing other critical thinking. Teaching time wasn't very easy for me because I was struggling as a little kid and trying to process every information. And there are times that I couldn't have the right behavior because I was struggling on understanding what my speech therapist was saying. Um, so it took me a few years to develop speech patterns, sense fragments, and other things. And I was very appreciative of how my speech therapist made a, a big impact on me. Um, when I started to go into like early education, like elementary school through middle school, I still struggled with my autism spectrum too, with my learning disability, where I had like a teacher assistant come to my classes. I was in a special ed class where I was able to work on doing assignments. Earlier and having accommodations like having somebody help me with reading and doing like test in a separate room to make sure that I can work on the test without having to worry about other people teasing me. When I was actually in those settings, I dealt where some of the students would make fun of me for simply having a teacher assistant with me in the class. They would kind of tease me and like call me slowpoke or retard or other things. And I kind of felt ashamed about myself when I was in elementary school through middle school, dealing with other kids judging me simply because I struggle with my disability. And I have dealt where some of the parents of the kids would start getting hard on me because they didn't like somebody with a disability, where I had my teacher assistant along with some of the other teachers try to reassure them that Matt, even though Matt has a disability, but he's simply just trying his best to be a good student, someone who's trying to understand people, and that really made a difference in having different teacher assistants, including some of the teachers stood up for me. Um, as I further progressed going to high school was very challenging because I went to a very big high school and there were a lot of kids from different cliques, like some were like the jockeys, some were the smart people, and some of the other different groups. And it was very hard to navigate a high school setting because there was a lot of increased bullying against people who were different, especially people with disabilities. And uh, in high school, I um, struggled so much more on learning materials more. I've dealt where um, I dealt with the same thing as from my previous early education setting was getting teased by other students about having a teacher assistant in the classroom and dealing where some teachers didn't like me if I struggled with um, reading or when to ask questions. I used to get bullied by a lot of students because the teachers were encouraged students to tease me if I struggled with reading or if I simply had a question about something, and it was challenging. Also, during my time in high school, I'd done social groups like being in a band and being on the swim team, and those things were very challenging for me because when I was in band, I played the B flat clarinet, which I liked playing music at that time, but way earlier. But then when I get into high school, it was very, very difficult because I got teased by a lot of band students where they would make fun of me because I struggled playing music. And even though I had done practice my clarinet and having private lessons, and I've worked hard on typing notes into music software notation where it would try to help me understand how the music would sound. Even though I worked hard in that, but I still struggled with music. And I would get shamed by one of the band teachers. I would refer him to as he because I'm not very comfortable sharing his name, his real name, because I don't want to face any backlash or face retaliation. So what he would do is when he noticed that I accidentally made a mistake or had struggled on a music piece whenever we play music in the band or sometimes in a concert or sometimes in these big competitions with other high schoolers, he would get mad at me and he would encourage other band students to pick on me. And it was very challenging. For example, we were in a music competition where we would play our concert piece against other high schools where bands where they try to rate us from like who's first and second and third. And one of the pieces that we played, we didn't win that time, and he got so mad, and so he encouraged band students to point fingers at me and blame me, even though I did the best I could to try to play this piece in the concert very well. And it was very, very difficult. He encouraged people to call me retard, saying this person brings shame to us. And I remember in my 4 years in band, I felt really, really ashamed about myself. I realized, like, what am I doing wrong? I did the best I could. Am I a bad person just because I couldn't play the piece right? And it was very difficult. I dealt with a lot of bullying from the band students, including from him, the band teacher, and that. Being on the swim team was not very easy. I struggled being on the swim team because you dealt where you had a lot of other guys on the swim team, and sometimes they would get extremely upset at me if I couldn't do well at a swim meet because in the high school swim team we had to compete with other high schoolers around Michigan or around in Ann Arbor, Michigan at these swim meets. And sometimes if I struggle on getting a perfect time during a swim meet, I would get harshly bullied by some of the teammates, and where they kind of blame me for them losing, or that it's my fault that they didn't do well. And it was a shame for me. I've doubted for 4 years of being on the swim team where I just like, holy shit, did I do something wrong? Am I a bad person just because we didn't, I didn't improve on them winning something? And I felt shame inside of me. I felt guilt inside of me, even though I had practiced swimming for a long time. I even took swim lessons when I was a little kid. Um, Also through my through early education to high school, I done sw- um, swim technique groups where they would try to help me improve on swimming, and that was really challenging when I couldn't really meet their standards, and it really hit me hard. And after after I started to graduate from high school, I there was these social media platforms that came out of nowhere, like Facebook and Instagram, and everybody was like talking about them, like, "Oh, we got Facebook and Instagram. Please connect with us and please be friends." And I was very hesitant at first because I wasn't sure what social media platforms were like, and I did a lot of the research about them, like what is Facebook, what is Instagram, how to use it, and what is it like, and that. And before I left high school, there were people from different colleges that came to talk about the schools, and um, one of my dreams of colleges that I really wanted to go to was UCLA. The reason why I wanted to go to UCLA when I was in high school was there was a student who came from UCLA who gave a talk at my high school, and she was talking about how UCLA changed her, and she shared a story about how she was like a student in high school who was very interested in like social justice and history, and she said that when she went to UCLA, she really liked the idea where it was very diverse, full of people. You know, you have people from who have different variety of education, and how they are very motivated in social justice and diversity. And in my mind at the time, as somebody with a autism spectrum and someone with an interest in learning social justice and history, I was so inspired by her speech. But one thing that I started to notice was that I decided not to try to apply for UCLA was because I was an out of state student. You know, I lived in Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it was pretty expensive to go to school. And I was not very good at academics wise. Like, I had very difficult in reading, I had difficult in writing, I couldn't do well in assignments or tests, and my grades were not as perfect like other people. And even when I was in high school, I struggled on doing like ACTs where my score would be so down, even if I worked really hard on trying to understand the material. And yeah. Another reason why I decided not to go to other 4 year colleges at that was because a lot of them didn't want to accommodate people with disabilities to learn. A lot of them were extremely hard to get into, and so I went on a path to go to a community college in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is Washington Community College. And Washington Community College was a difficult community college, with my opinion, because I still struggle with my disability and trying to learn material. And when I was in a community college, I dealt a lot of struggles where I was getting more teased by students in the class because they didn't like somebody who struggled on learning. For example, I would bring in a recorder to record lectures from my classes, and I'd deal where students would make fun of me, calling me like a retard. Like, why are you being a retard for recording a lecture? And all I can just say is, I'm just trying to understand what the professor's saying. I'm trying to help me improve on my note taking, and it was very uncomfortable too. I doubt where some of the professors were not willing to help provide accommodations for me from learning support services about helping me with my disability and learning. So originally with community college, I found it to be a struggle of where do I want to major in, and I kind of was looking at different things. At first, I was like looking at like business, but unfortunately, with business, I wasn't really good at math. I didn't have a higher math level. I didn't have a higher reading level, and then I switched idea to maybe try and do criminal justice thing, get criminal justice background, but I still struggle with reading material, and they wanted me to take more math classes and really advanced classes, which I couldn't do. And so I decided to go to like liberal arts, which was the best thing I can do. So with the liberal associate's degree in liberal arts, I basically spent the time taking basic classes, like basic like reading classes, critical thinking classes, um, English classes, like where you work on writing papers and essays and grammar, and taking some history classes, which I really enjoyed, like taking African history, world history, and I basically took like basic classes like intro to biology, intro to psych, intro to business, principles of sales, and even more critical thinking classes. And so When I was actually in community college, was very I always struggled on writing a lot because I had struggled to figure out how to have proper grammar or sentence fragments, and there were times where I dealt where some of the teachers in the class would get really mean at me, and I was get made fun of for struggling on. They would sometimes would call me, "Why are you being a baby if you struggle with grammar or sentence fragments?" And um, I felt really hurt at that time, and I kind of was struggling, like in college in the future, and trying to think about like, am I a bad person because I struggle with grammar or struggle with sentence structure, or am I a bad person just because I can't do well in essays? But unfortunately, I kept struggling in school. I kept saying, "Do I really want to give up on having liberal art, trying to go through a liberal arts degree?" Because I was dealing with getting bullied by other students. Some professors didn't want to provide accommodations, and a lot of them would just try to put me down just because I struggle with learning. And so I had to decide to try to continue liberal arts just to get some education. And so um, there's this a tutoring center where I was able to go to. I spent most of my time going to a tutor where they would help me with reading or help me with assignments. And there was also a writing center where they had writing tutors who try to help people with writing, grammar, sense fragments. And it was really hard for me to go to the writing center too sometimes, because sometimes the other tutors of the writing center would get mad at me and even make fun of me for struggling with my disability and trying to process information like grammar usage or sentence fragments. But there was this person who his name was Tom Zimmerman from who was the head of the writing center, and he was really kind to me. He really helped make a difference for me, and he really stood up for me when I was getting bullied by some of the other tutors in the writing center when I struggled with understanding the material, and he took the time to help me out. He worked with me on sense fragments. He worked with me on grammar, and he was really, really a kind person. And I'm very grateful for Tom Zimmerman, who was the head of the writing center, because he really helped me out, and he really told me a lot of good advice about writing. Is that everybody struggles with writing, everybody struggles with grammar, everybody struggles with sense fragments. You're not the only one. But I said that the best thing they can do as a writer is to practice on being creative while using critical thinking when writing. Try to read it out to yourself, or try to have like a computer read it out to me to try to understand it better. And it's okay if you need to ask questions about how to do writing. And I was very, very, very grateful on having Tom Zimmerman help me out in the writing center. And his help with me really changed me as a person, where it really gave me more motivation to do more writing in the long run. um, After I graduated from Washington Community College in 2014 with a liberal arts degree, I was kind of figuring out what would I go there next, and I realized that I decided not to prefer any more classes or any more future degrees like in like business or criminal justice, was because the same thing was my reading level wasn't high enough, my math skills were not perfect, and some of my grades were kind of mixed around, where sometimes it would not like be like A's, most like B's or C's, which made things harder. And also my community college was getting pretty expensive to really afford to take classes. And during that time after graduating, I was struggling to figure out like where do I go from here, because there's a lot of places, including the job setting, where they don't hire people with lower education or with people who have associate's degree. And I said I'm just gonna have to work in the food service industry. Um, Working in the food, I've worked in the food service industry for almost about 11 years and currently, and my job has basically just been doing is like dishwashing, washing dishes, organizing the kitchen, doing stocking, and um, it's a very big challenging thing for me with autism spectrum to be working in the food service industry because I struggle on doing tasks efficiently in a fast-paced environment. Sometimes I struggle with multitasking whenever the place gets busy, and I deal where some coworkers bully me about struggling on doing tasks or if I struggle with a disability. And it's been a very big challenge for me struggling in the food service industry because I'm just trying to work hard as I can. I try to be creative while using critical thinking as a way to do tasks, and I try my best to be a good hard worker. And I do struggle with my disability in the workplace, and sometimes it's hard when people get mad at me. And so I kind of been struggling with myself, saying, "Am I a bad person for not working hard?" And I kind of was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I can do well in life," and that. Um, I came to realize with friendships was I started to feel more like lost with friendships because a lot of my friends or people who I knew started to be able to get advanced degrees, became more popular, and became more addicted to social media stuff, and some of them moved directions toward social media influencer idea or content creator, and it became much challenging for me because I kind of was getting bullied by many people who I know, peers of my friends, and my friends about having a disability, how I'm struggling with it, and how I'm not perfect like how they want me to be. And it started to become more of a challenge, and so what also happened um, was that I dealt where some of the peers of my friends would encourage my friends to bully me, and that became much stressful. Where when I was getting bullied by them, they just didn't stand up for me. They just kind of said, "Okay, we're just going to join them in," and I kind of felt pretty bad about it. And with social media platforms, like I said earlier, I was kind of hesitant and confused a lot because I started to realize that it's really hard to navigate because it's easy place to get bullied, and I doubt where I was getting cyberbullied and bullied for struggling with my disability, or if I'm just simply just trying to be creative, or if I'm different from everybody else. And I doubt where I got bullied so much by some of my friends and people who I knew or who I was connected with, and I felt kind of lost with myself. Like, where do I go from here as a human being in the world, or even trying to understand things? And it became harder and harder when I kind of doubt where I would like post something on social media, like something like I did, or even if I struggled, or even just being creative, and I wouldn't get many likes than other people would, or other people would put me down for simply just trying to be a human being, and I felt really bad inside. And then, and it's really hard when I deal with problems with social media, and I kind of never feel very comfortable with it. So, and I try to visualize in myself like, where do I go from here when people are mean at me on social media platforms or in that. Another thing that I basically struggled on the friendship stuff was being ghosted all the time, where I dealt where some people say, "Hey, we want you to hang out with me," and then all of a sudden, and then when the day comes when they want me to hang out with them, I basically kept getting ghosted like about 98% of the time, and I was like, "What's going on? Did I do something wrong?" And I realized I was being ghosted by a lot of people, and then and it's been very difficult on understanding why I was being ghosted, and like sometimes like people would get mad at me, like when I would just say back saying, "Hey, even when I'm trying to be honest, saying I was my feelings were hurt, or like why didn't you show up, or like I understand if you were busy, but it would be nice if you would have let me know that you could hang out with me on that day." And I tried using these nice phrases, but they just never worked, and so um, another experiences that I struggled with the most was when some of my friends became more um, addicted to social media platforms or into the creative content or including media influencers. They started to get more mean at me because I was struggling with my disability. I was struggling on navigating stuff, and even though I was very kind to them, even though I was very supportive for them, I like gave them like likes whenever they did something, whenever had struggles, when they made achievements. I always try to leave a nice comment, but they never really appreciated me back or really valued me as someone who was trying to be a decent person to them, and it became harder with that doing this because I kept getting bullied by many people who were connected with some of these social media influencers, or sometimes some of them would send me hateful messages at me, and I basically just kind of felt really, really ashamed about myself. Like, why are people trying to be bullying me because I struggle with my disability, or I'm just trying to be a kind, decent person. Like, I want to be compassionate and understanding of people when they struggle and make achievements. And I'm a type of person that wants to send good thoughts, including positive vibes. And I was kind of confused, like, why would some of my friends and some of the people that I knew who go into the social media influencer types encourage people to bully somebody, and that I'm I've been single for a long time because I do struggle with social cues. Like I struggle with trying to understand women, including girls. Sometimes I'm not very good at talking to them. Maybe I can't understand their behavior or their personalities, and I've dealt on times where I've like meet girls or hang out with girls, and sometimes it doesn't work out that well. Sometimes they make fun of me for struggling with social cues, like maybe I can't do well in a crowded environment. Maybe I struggle to figure out what to say or how I can communicate my thoughts, and I would get teased and bullied by a lot of them. And sometimes, what the big hard part was, they were kind of like to spread bad rumors about me, gossip or social media or with other people, where it really affected me as a person because I lost friends and people that I knew just because of their bad rumors. And I started to feel more ashamed and guilt about myself. Like, why am I a bad person when I struggle with women, including girls? Why do girls, including women, like to bully somebody with an autism spectrum? And I've tried like meeting girls like through social groups, sometimes through social apps like Tinder or Meetup, but they just didn't work right. And I felt kind of confused and not sure how to feel. And so, another thing that I basically continue to struggle more is how to understand my disability when it comes to doing different tasks or situations, because I've been volunteering in my hometown for a long time. I volunteered for the Ann Arbor Hands On Museum, where I try to work with other volunteers to help educate kids about subjects, even though I'm not very smart about science. But I was very grateful for the 4 years of doing volunteering, where they were able to accommodate me to help kids learn about stuff. And then I started to after that ended, I started to do volunteering for like soup kitchens, the homeless shelter, and food banks, where I was trying to find ways to help people who are poor or homeless get food or things. And it was a big struggle doing that life because I struggled on performing a lot of tasks because it was like a fast paced environment, and I dealt where some volunteers were continuing to tease me about struggling with a disability, or if I couldn't do every task, or if it was really hard for me to be really figure out right away like what how to handle the situation. And it was very challenging of dealing with getting bullied in those type of volunteering things. And I kind of can't question myself like am I a bad person for struggling with my disability in a volunteering setting? Do I have what happens if I am I a bad person if I can't offer everything that I can do? And so I decided to leave doing the soup kitchens, the homeless shelter, and the food bank because it was getting harder for me, and I dealt with dealing with struggles with getting bullied, but also dealing with how they just didn't work well for me because there were times where when we had enough food, we had to throw out all the food when we finished doing the shifts. Where half of the people that were homeless didn't get enough food, and I felt really bad inside because they had a policy where we have to throw out all this food that they made, and I just didn't like that. And so in the start of 2018, or 2019, I started to volunteer with this small community group, which is called Vineyard Church of Ann Arbor, where we go to downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I help help work with other volunteers to provide grocery bags, or people help feed pizza, people make coffee and drinks, and we go to downtown Ann Arbor where we provide this stuff. And my basic job of is just to hand out grocery bags filled with canned goods. And I started to like this one more was because I get to make sure that we don't throw away food. We give everybody grocery bags, um, and that the only challenging part of doing the volunteering too is sometimes we I struggle on understanding other volunteers' personality. Sometimes they get a little impatient with me, or they get mean at me if I struggle with doing tasks in a fast-paced environment, or if I struggle with multitasking, and or or if I still struggle with my disability. And also, there are some challenges where sometimes we can't feed everybody in 1 hour or so, and that can be a little challenging too. But I really like doing this volunteering thing with this group was because the leader of the group, his name is Glenn, and he's really a nice guy, and he really helped me out. And says you and really understood that when I struggled, he knew that I can do some good. He knows that if I can't do everything, that I can. He knows that I'm still a helpful person, so I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, Also, another thing too that I've been feeling more lost is being a Christian with a disability. Ever since I was young, I was, including currently, I am a Christian, and it's been really hard to be a Christian in a society where people like using bigotry and hate against people who are different, including people with disabilities, and how a lot of people that are very religious like using Jesus' name as a way to hate against social justice policies, against human rights, including people with disability rights, and against people with disabilities. So as a Christian myself, I've always dealt where I was continuing to get bullied even more by people, including some of my friends, including some of the people that are very religious, including some of my former friends that were Christians, about struggling with my disability, how I'm a different how they think that I'm not a good person because I'm a Christian that who wants to do good things. And so um, it's very hard for me to be open about being religious a lot because I know that we live in a society where we all have different religions in the world, and also there's some people who don't believe in this in Jesus, and there's people who like using bigotry and hate against comprehensive ideals, social justice, universal health care, human rights, especially people with disability rights. So I've been struggling on navigating society as a Christian with a disability, and I keep on struggling every day, saying like, should I give up my Christianity just because people don't like me as a Christian with a disability, and that. Well, also another struggle that I've kind of been having a hard time too is when people make bad assumptions about how like I'm not a hard worker just because I struggle with my disability, like, or if I can't work full time, or if I can't do multitasking, or if I can't hold on to friendships, or if I can't find friends, if I can't find good people. And so I live with that guilt very easily when people make assumptions like how I'm not working hard, or they think I'm a bad person because I struggle with social issues, or maybe I can't do well with people. And so, yeah. So, um, and also another thing too that is really hard is I struggle on figuring out how I can be able to communicate my thoughts in different social settings, or including on social media platforms, or like YouTube, or with people in general, because I deal with trying to understand subjects at a certain pace, advanced pace. I sometimes don't know how to ask a question a certain way, or sometimes I don't know how to respond to a person, so it takes me longer to do that. And there are times where I get rejected by people when they don't want to listen to me, like even if I'm struggling, or if I just having good hobbies, interest, and or I just simply just want to express concerns, or to give good insights. And so I've been dealing with a lot where people reject me a lot, and even some of my friends tell me that you're just being stupid just because you want to have some good insight, or you want to talk a little bit about yourself, or if you want to have a conversation where you talk about something. And so I've been dealing with that a lot. And even it's can hard too sometimes because I like watching YouTube videos. I like leaving a kind comment. Sometimes other YouTubers don't like that, or sometimes they don't appreciate me, and sometimes I get bullied by other people who follow like social media people, or sometimes even peers of my friends, or even like people who follow these YouTubers would bully me. And so that. So, as a way for me to try to understand myself, I'm a person that always takes guilt very hard. Sometimes I'm a person that self-reflects really, really hard, where I am trying to brainstorm every day about who I am, what type of person am I, how do I navigate myself with an autism spectrum, how do I um, be a human being when the world isn't tough. And so when I come to understand myself, I start to realize that that I'm had to really be honest and open with myself, and to say like my biggest thing that I notice is my disability has made a lot of challenges for me, and I struggle with it. And that I try to tell myself that it's not my fault that I struggle a lot, that the world is just difficult to understand, is polarizing. Sometimes people are focused on bigotry and hate instead of trying to be understanding. And I try to always remember what my speech therapist had what she had taught me, where she taught me about the importance of being kind, compassion, understanding, trying to use critical thinking to understand people or different situations or to learn things. So I'm always trying to follow what my speech therapist gave me, what she taught me, and I try to follow what she had taught me, even though the world is still broken, is polarizing, or is filled with bigotry and hate, or if people are even meaner. And so when it comes to education, I had to try to tell myself and understand myself that everybody has different ways of learning, and with myself with my disability, the I really did the best I could. I had to tell myself I did the best I could to try to be creative on learning. Like for example, using audiobooks to help me understand different books, or using Spark Notes to help me understand the novels, or using documentaries or YouTube with closed captions as a way for me to learn materials. And if I had to see a tutor several times to get help with assignments, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Or if I need to record a lecture, it really is the best way to help me improve on note taking. So and I kind of was struggling a lot with dealing with figure out like about having a lower degree. Am I a bad person for having it? And all I could just do is try to tell myself that I did the best I could to go to a community college, did the best as I could to have an associate's degree, and that maybe a higher college wouldn't be a right fit. But one of the biggest struggles that I kind of been having a hard time dealing is I live in a college town where there's a lot of students, a lot of people that are very highly educated, where I continue to get bullied by students, including people very highly educated, where they kind of judge me for struggling with my disability, or they kind of assume that somebody who doesn't have a really advanced education is a bad person. So I kind of still struggle with that. And also, since the job market doesn't really hire associate degrees, and so I had to tell myself, remind myself that, just because I struggle with my disability, maybe I didn't get a higher education, I still have some education inside myself. I can always try to continue to learn on my own, whether it's like watching documentaries, whether it's listening to the news, whether it's watching YouTube videos, but to learn how to do things or to understand things. So I always tell myself that I have to remind myself that it's okay if I'm very unique in learning, or if I couldn't do well in school. Um, there are things that I had to give up on. One was I had to give up on my my clarinet playing music. I had to give up on it. It was because I lost so much confidence in myself, because I was in a high school band where it was really toxic, and I had a toxic band teacher where he really made fun of me, and I kind of had to give up on doing music. And so um, also another thing too is with me trying to understand myself is I kind of struggle on trying to understand the world better, where because I deal with a lot of people, they get mean at me, and people reject me just because I struggle with a disability or that I'm different. And so I kind of been struggling more on trying to understand myself, like, should I have to give up being kind, compassion, or understanding when people are mean to me? How do I navigate this thing? And so I've been doing is working on writing projects more, where I write letters to influential people that inspire me to work on my disability, or how they work on social justice, or advocacy for disability rights, or how their acting is so inspiring to me. So I've been working on this writing project ever since 2014, and and I kind of like it a lot because I get some good responses in the mail. Some people send me um, handwritten letters. Some people give me advice about how to navigate life. People share with me about what their work is like, and I even get some times where they invite me to meet with them. And so, unfortunately, sometimes too, the writing project doesn't work well because sometimes I don't get responses from people. Sometimes the mail gets lost, where I have to have a few friends who work at the post office help me out, or sometimes people just reject it because they don't want to listen to somebody with a disability. So that could be a hard thing, but I always enjoy writing letters to a lot of influential people that inspire me. Um, I kind of been starting to go more on wanting to explore myself more, which means it's like I kind of wanted to see where I can go because because my disability impacts me a lot because even though I do have a driver's license, but I struggle with driving. I struggle with navigating different situations and what I've tried to do more is do solo traveling. I had some good experience of solo traveling to like Washington D.C. and a few times to Los Angeles, where I was able to explore different places, take the Metro rail line, and see different things. So I kind of been telling myself that I like to do a little more solo traveling where I can go at my own pace, don't have to worry about rushing a lot. I have time to do research about things and to explore. So that's what I'm trying to do, focus on more. Maybe doing a little more solo traveling to give myself time to explore things, to remind myself I'm just simply am a human being. Even when I start with a disability, if I start with different things, that I can just try to go at my own pace. Um, with friendships, it's not as workable that well. I do continue to get bullied and being put down and by friends in the past. And currently, I lost friends from middle school and high school. I lost new friends and some people that I knew because they just didn't really appreciate me for simply just trying to be a kind person, understanding, being supportive for them when they had hard times or when they make achievements and I kind of been struggling more. It's like, where do I go from here when I don't have many friends or when people don't want to see me as a human being? And it's a big struggle for me, and all I can simply just do is try to be a kind person, try to be compassionate, try to be understanding, and try to be creative in how I'm a unique human being who's kind and understanding and that. So when I go on this approach of trying to be creative and being kind, compassionate, understanding, sometimes it helps me out where I get some people who like me and some people who can help me out, or sometimes people that can um, help me with certain things that I struggle with. Like for example, like if I'm kind and understanding of a postal worker at a local post office when there's a long line and she's worried about other people getting patient. If I'm a patient person who's kind and respectful, she's very more willing to help me out. So I always try to be creative in how I be more kind and compassionate, understanding of other people when they struggle or when they make achievements or just in general. And so, to be honest, it doesn't work 100% of the time. I have to tell myself that if it doesn't work 100% of the time, I have to continue to be a kind, compassionate, understanding, and someone who uses critical thinking, and that will help me in the long run. And it's better to have these things instead of someone who's focusing on hate or bigotry or other forms of meanness. Um, when it comes to women and girls, it's always been a big struggle for me because I struggled always to communicate my thoughts or try to get them to understand me as a guy who simply just wants to be kind and understanding, wants to be a good listener, and it's very hard for me to communicate that a lot because I get continue to get teased and bullied by women, including girls, about struggling with a disability. Sometimes they use other verbal harassments, or they call me names like retard, or talk bad about me, and so or sometimes they don't want, they encourage other people to tease me, which makes me feeling really, really uncomfortable and guilty, and I always get worried about when these things happen because right now we live in a world where there's a lot of people that are against women's rights. We have a president who's done a lot of sexual harassment, who's in office. We have a lot of people that are very addicted to like using certain women issues as a way to attack people with disabilities. So I'm always get really, really scared about that. So the best thing that I can do is to think to myself is what type of person do I want to see in a girl or a woman, and I try not to see them as just girls or women. I try to see them as people. I try to be respectful and understanding of them. Like, for example, if they are make achievement or if they're struggling, I try to be very more like trying to be supportive for them, try to be a listener, trying to remind them that they're just human beings, and try to be supportive where I say the kind words to them, and basically like that. And so sometimes it doesn't work all the time, and I have to tell myself the best thing that I can do is continue to just try to be kinder to women, including girls, even if them are not kind, because I wanted to try to show them that as myself with a disability, that I'm a person who wants to care about people. I want to see good in people, not just only women and girls, but see people in general. And so, and that. Um, and with work, working in the food service industry is very, very difficult for me. I continue to face many struggles in the past, and currently about dealing with getting bullied by other coworkers for struggling with doing tasks, or sometimes dealing with people calling me mean names, or so in a fast-paced environment. So what I always try to understand myself in a food service industry job is just try to be respectful to other coworkers as much as possible. Try to be a team person where I like to work with them as a team. Try to focus on teamwork ways where we can all work as a team during a rush or to get a task done. Try to be creative while using critical thinking to learn how to do tasks efficiently. When place is slow, I can try to be very figure out what tasks I can do, especially, and also one other challenge of being in the food service industry job is sometimes I might not make enough money, but what all I can do is just try to do is work on a push called Save Smart, Spend Smart, where I try to focus on where I want to spend money on, like, things that I like, where should I save money on towards a goal. So I work on doing this on an every week um, basis. And so with volunteering, I've decided that I'm going to try to continue to volunteer to help people who are in need, because the world is always broken. People can't find help from other services. We have a lot of people who are currently going to be in poverty, who don't really have a safety way of getting help. So I'm going to continue myself as a volunteer to try to help people who are poor or disadvantaged, or who are homeless, and try to make sure that they get help or get like some kind of food. And so I'm still going to continue to do that, even if I continue to get teased or bullied by some volunteers about struggling with my disability, if I struggle on doing tasks, or if homeless people or people who are low income get easily frustrated if they can't get everything. So um, that's what I'm going to try to do, is continue to volunteer, but also try to do the same thing as like use critical thinking, and be creative on how I do different tasks and that. um, with social media platforms, including YouTube, I think it's going to be much harder to navigate these things, because everybody relies on social media platforms, including YouTube, these days. And so what I've kind of been doing more is is reduce scrolling. Try to reduce scrolling each day, how long I scroll on these platforms. And also try to spend more time on trying to take it have a healthy balance between of using social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, where I try to give myself time to figure out how I should, when will I be safe to post something, or when, or do I feel comfortable using. So I kind of been spending more time relying on email, phone, and text as a way for communicating with people and as a way to protect myself. But even if people reject using phone, text, and email or WhatsApp, if they don't want to communicate with that, then I'm just going to have to tell myself that I have to do that it's not my fault that I don't feel comfortable communicating on social media platforms, or if I don't feel comfortable leaving a comment on YouTube, that the best thing that I can do is just try to find ways to protect myself from a lot of bullying or harassment from these things. And so, and it's that's all I can do is just try to be creative on how I can communicate. I don't feel safe doing it on social media platforms. Um, Another thing to add with social media platforms is I have to tell myself that, if I don't get many likes or many comments, or if I don't have many friends on there, or if I don't have friends in general, all I can just do is try to remind myself that I'm a unique person, and it's very important for me as a human being to always continue to try to be kind and understanding of people when they face struggles or make achievements. Or it's really good for me to be creative, for me to not give up my creativity and like wanting to be creative at learning, try to share my stories about what my struggles, but what I've learned, how, and some of my vision of wanting to be a human being. So that's what I have to tell myself when I ever use social media platforms. Um, when I get rejected by people or some of my friends where they don't want to listen to my insight, or when they don't want to understand, or people don't want to understand me as a human being who wants to do good, even if I struggle with my autism spectrum, or when I struggle in life, what I've been doing nowadays is I've been working on writing speeches where I talk about my struggles, my thoughts, myself, on trying to understand myself as a human being, where I talk to my computer and records my thoughts and I have it played out, and then I work on my speeches, and I try to do as a way to understand how to organize my thoughts, understand my feelings, understand what my thinking is, and how to address being a human being. So that's what I've been basically been doing a lot. And I've been putting some of my speeches on YouTube because I want the world to know that I really want them to be kinder to somebody with a disability. I want people to be understanding of me as somebody who's trying to navigate a world where it's hard, and the things I want to become a human being with good principles, with critical thinking, and I want to tell the world like what type of person am I when I struggle with autism spectrum too, because I have seen too many times where people rely on entertainment and news media and politicians, where they use a lot of anti-disability stigma, or they stereotype people with disabilities or people with mental health as bad people. And so I want to try to tell people that this is what I am. I'm a human being with autism spectrum. I struggle with it, but I'm trying to be a human being at the same time too. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes, or try to understand situations. I'm trying to improve myself, and I want to see have good goals, and that's basically what I've been doing. Even though if I don't get many views on YouTube, or if I don't get many people appreciate me on social media platforms, all I can just do is to remind myself I'm just a human being who's trying to tell a story, who's trying to tell people about the things that I want to do, and simply my goal is just to be a human being with creativity, um, with wanting to understand things better, wanting to be a better person when the world is broken. And so, um, with my future things, I'm just gonna have to continue trying to be creative as much as possible. Try to um, be try to put myself on a better path as a person with autism spectrum, on trying to focus on doing good things, trying to control my emotions, making sure that I don't get provoked or get or when people say mean things, because I deal with people who do this stuff trying to get me mad and all that. And so my other thing that I'm trying to do more is, with when people respond to me, they want to meet with me through the letters that I've written to. I'm going to try to focus on that more, where I can meet them. And so I know many people tell me that it's very unusual for me to meet these influential people that invite me meet with them. But what I can try to remind myself is like that 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 I'm not a bad person. I'm just simply am a person that wants to wants to find people who do good things, and it feels good inside when people want to recognize me for taking the time to try to be a kind person or understanding or to appreciate people's work. And so that's what it is. And so um, and also, it's hard sometimes to doing the writing project or writing letters to influential people, because I do get judged by like people, including my friends and other people I know. They tell me that it's weird that you're writing a lot of letters to people, influential people, and or you want to recognize them for doing good work or when they struggle or when they have some good ideas. And all I can just try to remind myself is I'm just a human being who wants to see people who want to recognize people who do good things, even if my own friends or people I know or people in general don't want to appreciate me for simply just working hard and or trying to see good in people. And so um, And with friendship stuff, I'm gonna have to try to put a pause on that for a while, because it's been really hard on um, dealing with people getting more meaner and people using bigotry and hate and people putting me down. And I just been getting pretty sad and pretty depressed about that life, because I've been doing this thing on a constant basis. And I live with guilt very hard, where people make me feel bad just because I struggle with my disability, or if I struggle trying to be a human being. So I'm going to try to take a pause on friendships, but I'm going to try at the same time too just to be kind to people and understanding of people when they face struggles or when they make achievements. So I'm still not going to give up the basic good things that I want to have, but I think with friendships, it's going to have to be pretty careful on how I do stuff and that. And also with understanding myself, with working hard, um, I have to tell myself that working hard is kind of like trying to understand things better. Like I'm trying to work hard on myself, on trying to learn how to control my emotions or not to get mad when people provoke me or bully me. I have to continue to be creative while using critical thinking when I do my job, but when I volunteer. With working hard could also mean it's like I'm just trying to organize my thoughts. I'm trying to understand other people when people get mean at me, or when I can't do well with friendships, when I can't do well in social groups. And also with working hard is simply just like I try to work hard on my own self, on trying to learn, be creative on how I learn things, like audiobooks, YouTube, documentaries, or some short news that I listen to, or podcasts. So, and I have to remind myself that everybody has different ways of working hard or different views of it. And I all I can do is myself is to remind myself that I'm just working hard, but also trying to find ways to understand the world. That I don't have to be like everybody, and even if people judge me the wrong way or they assume that I'm not working hard, all I can just remind myself is I'm just a human being who's trying my best, trying to understand the world, trying to understand work or volunteering, or just simply just trying to learn. And so that. But I'm also decided that I'm going to continue being a creative Christian, where I'm going to continue to follow Jesus's Christ's philosophies on social justice, human rights, including people with disability rights, and even on universal health care, and continue on doing praying, continue to try to be a visionary where I really want a world to be a better place for like minorities, women, immigrants, people with disabilities, or people who are poor, disadvantaged, or other social justice causes. And I have to remind myself as a Christian that it's okay if I have want to follow Jesus' good principles, or I simply am just want to be a decent human being who wants to learn, even if I get rejected by people in general, or if people who are very religious, or other Christians, if they don't want to be if they don't like a Christian like myself with a disability, or if I want to have good visions of what I've learned from Jesus and Moses. So I'm going to continue on going on that path. So, but I do hope that in the near future that the world can be kinder to me with an autism spectrum too. I do hope that people can be appreciative or understanding of me as a person who's trying my best to be a good human being who wants to do good things, who wants to work hard, who wants to be creative while using critical thinking, even if I struggle with my disability. And and um, I another thing too is I really do hope that someday that there could be more girls, including women, where they can be kinder and understanding of me with my disability, where they can understand me as a person who wants to do good things, or who's trying my best to understand them in a good way, or if I can't do well communicating, or if I'm not like a sexy guy, or if I'm not like a wealthy guy, or if I'm not like a good looking guy, that I'm just trying to be a decent person who wants women and girls to feel comfortable about who they are, or I want to remind them that they are just human beings if they struggle or if they make achievements too. And so I didn't come up with a good script today because I had so many things on my mind to say, but I I'm still in the process of being lost all the time because the world is so broken. I struggle with my disability. There are times where I feel like I'm lost, like Woody from Toy Story, Disney Toy Story, where he's trying to navigate life or help people, or like Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2, where he tries to navigate a society where it's broken, or where he deals where he loses friends, or if people don't treat him right, or like Alex Chen from Life is Strange Two Colors, where she tries to navigate a society where she tries to understand people's emotions, where she struggles with mental health, and or like Disney Mulan, where she tries to navigate life where it lives. She deals with like prejudice or people being judgmental about her being different. So I'm kind of lost like them, but at the same time too, I have to remind myself that everybody's lost in different ways. I have to tell myself that it doesn't mean I'm a bad person if I'm lost, or it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person if I can't do well with other people, if I struggle with my disability, and I have to remind myself that it's okay for me to self reflect, use critical thinking, try to work on focusing on doing good things more, try to be creative how I do it, try to do self care, and and that. And I also have to remind myself that everybody struggles. I'm not the only one, and and um, and also I'm a type of person when who really has a lot of sympathy and compassion for when I hear stories about people being lost, or they struggle, or they want to work on self reflection, because I really want people to um, um, do well in life. I want people to find what they can do, what their passion is. I want people to continue to have kindness and good things in life when they struggle or they make achievements, because I really believe that people deserve to have a chance in life where they can find good things, find things what they like, work on strategies and how to navigate situations. So, yeah. So thanks for taking the time to listen to me, trying to talk about feeling lost, but trying to understand myself. And even if I struggled on the speech, or I was disorganized, or if I tried had difficulty on my autism spectrum too, and so